He didn't flinch when she walked away, because men like Daxon Creed never believe the woman who built them will stop choosing them, until the headlines changed, until the silence stretched too long, until the wife he betrayed became the woman no one could touch anymore. Welcome back to Mr. Charles Stories, where love isn't always loud, but strength always speaks. If you've ever stayed quiet when your heart was screaming, or wondered if dignity means walking away when no one applauds, this story is for you. Stay with us, and don't forget to like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe if you believe healing begins with self-worth. Noira Wynn wasn't famous before she married Daxon Creed. She didn't chase magazine covers or clickbait articles. She never needed to. She was the reason Daxon's story looked so perfect in the first place. Daxon was the one with the global tech empire, the sharply tailored suits, and a smile that made investors sign without thinking twice. He knew how to speak to crowds. He knew how to keep his image curated to the pixel. But it was Noira who made that look effortless. She wrote the keynote remarks. She arranged the press dinners. She remembered the children's names of every executive's wife and made sure their nonprofits got a check from the Creed Foundation before the holidays. She didn't need applause. She was the backbone. And Daxon loved her for it, or so it seemed. From the outside, they were untouchable. The charity events, the gala circuits, the Forbes spreads with headlines like "Love Meets Legacy," the Creed's silent empire. People envied their grace, but no one noticed how little they touched each other after the camera flashes. No one paid attention when they sat at opposite ends of a dinner table in their high-rise penthouse. No one asked why Noira's eyes dimmed after Daxon's meetings started running late every night. They never called it a deal, but it became one. He'd stay dazzling, she'd stay elegant, and together they'd build an empire of perfection. In return, she got comfort, security, control of the public narrative, and somewhere along the way, love slipped into the background like a painting. Hung too long on a wall, it was still there, but no one looked at it anymore. It didn't hurt at first, because Noira still remembered how Daxon used to laugh. How he once skipped an investor dinner just to slow dance with her in the kitchen. How he used to hold her hand even in boardrooms, like they were still figuring life out. But those days faded. Now, he walked 2 steps ahead instead of beside her. Now, she rehearsed his smiles for him before galas. Now, he didn't even flinch when her voice cracked during dinner. She came with a portfolio and stilettos. Brielle Cassin, 29, graduate of Columbia. Lean, polished, soft-spoken but firm. The kind of assistant whose presence always looked slightly too composed to be temporary. Noira met her first at a luncheon. Brielle stood a little too close when Daxon introduced them. She didn't call Noira Mrs. Creed, just smiled and said, "It's an honor to meet you. Daxon always speaks highly of you." Daxon didn't correct the tone. Noira didn't show her discomfort. Because women like Noira are trained to smile while bleeding. They still slept in the same bed, still kissed goodnight, still spoke kindly over morning coffee. But the air changed. When Daxon took calls at midnight and stepped out onto the balcony for privacy, Noira stopped asking who it was. When he returned late smelling of something soft and floral, something like jasmine, Noira blinked but didn't speak. She didn't own jasmine perfume. She knew Brielle did. But confrontation wasn't Noira's weapon. Grace was. And silence, when practiced well, can sound a lot like control. The world still saw them as a unit. They still arrived together, still smiled on red carpets, still clinked champagne at launch parties. But in the quiet spaces, car rides, shared breakfasts, that long elevator to the penthouse, they were strangers with too many shared photos on the wall. Noira wasn't naive. She'd watched power morph men into gamblers, and she'd always believed Daxon was the exception. But she wasn't watching for betrayal. She was watching for patterns. And Daxon's pattern changed. It wasn't an affair that screamed. It was an affair that leaned in, whispered, waited. She noticed the way Daxon replied in meetings more often than "I miss you," the second phone he kept in his briefcase. the private driver who dropped him off blocks away instead of directly home. And the final thread? A silver hairpin, left on the nightstand, still glinting in the morning light. It wasn't hers. Noira picked it up, turned it over once, then placed it inside the drawer without comment. It wasn't about catching him. It was about choosing how she'd leave. Betrayal makes some women scream, break plates, throw accusations, demand explanations. Noira didn't. Because when a man disrespects you in plain sight, your strength isn't in noise. It's in the way you keep your voice level while your heart cracks. It's in the decision not to shrink. And by that point, Noira had already started writing her speech for the youth gala. She wasn't going to miss it. Not for him. Not for the woman who thought she could be her replacement. Not for betrayal dressed in suits and silence. Do you think Noira should have called him out the moment she saw the signs? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like this video if you've ever been the one who stayed silent until you didn't. The invitation shimmered with her name engraved in gold. Noira had spent the last 4 months pulling every string, tapping every contact, and convincing donors to back her non-profit's biggest youth education initiative. The gala wasn't just a fundraiser. It was a statement, a way to reclaim purpose, visibility, and impact on her own terms. Everything was in place. The rooftop venue glowed under string lights and skyline views. Photographers lined the entrance. She wore a champagne silk dress, fitted but graceful, and her speech was rehearsed to the breath. But he was late. Daxon didn't text, didn't call. She had counted on that. He liked to arrive when attention was highest. Noira was already making rounds, thanking sponsors, greeting board members, when someone from the media tapped her shoulder and said, "He's here." She turned, and there he was. Daxon Creed, crisp suit, careless swagger, his hand not empty, but guiding someone else. Betrayal. The woman beside him didn't wear her usual assistant black. She wore emerald, low back, silk that clung, lips darkened to match the evening. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't subtle. They didn't walk arm in arm, but the air between them wasn't professional. Noira felt nothing. At first, just a tight pause in her throat, a second too long staring, and then the return to motion, smiling at the cameras, raising her glass to the right angles. She was used to playing calm. It was muscle memory now. Daxon scanned the room until his eyes found hers. For a second, she thought she saw hesitation, maybe guilt, but he didn't close the distance. He didn't offer an explanation, he simply nodded. Then let Betrayal adjust his tie in public. Noira excused herself from the circle she was in and moved toward them. Every step slower than necessary, every heartbeat louder. When she reached them, Daxon looked at her with the same warmth he used in press conferences. Betrayal, on the other hand, smiled with something colder. "We were upstairs reviewing his speech," she said. Upstairs, private, unsupervised. Noira turned to Daxon, her voice level. "Is that all it was?" He didn't respond. His silence wasn't confusion. It was choice, a pause. Then his eyes shifted back to the room. He said something to a passing executive, as if nothing needed to be addressed, as if the question wasn't valid, and that was it. No dramatic blow-up, no accusations, no tears. Noira walked away before she lost control of her face. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. The message was clear. In front of peers, donors, media, and their own legacy, he chose another, or at least he stopped choosing her. By midnight, the gala was declared a success. Noira didn't stay for the after-party. She asked the driver to take her back to the townhouse, not the penthouse. Daxon didn't ask where she went. He didn't come home either. The next morning, she moved quickly. 2 suitcases, 1 box of photos she couldn't bear to leave behind. The rest, she let the staff pack or donate. She didn't cry. Instead, she called her attorney before breakfast and requested full separation paperwork. By noon, she had signed off her name from all upcoming events tied to Creed Systems. She sent a polite resignation from the foundation board and quietly shut down. the email account she once used to manage his entire philanthropic arm. He didn't text. She didn't check if he did. The silence between them had become an agreement, a contract with no renewal clause. That night, she slept alone, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel small in a king-sized bed. She felt free, not healed, not whole, but unhooked. And that was enough. In the days that followed, the world didn't stop spinning. No headlines announced their separation. There were whispers, of course, speculations in tight circles, a couple of subtle questions at brunch tables and charity events. Noara never corrected the rumors. She didn't defend herself or throw stones, because power, real power, isn't in proving someone wrong. It's in living like you no longer owe them anything. Friends asked if she was okay. She smiled and said she was building something new. And she was, while Daxon kept showing up to public events with Betrayal, pretending nothing had changed. Noara started drafting the blueprint for a new initiative, not to compete, not to retaliate, to restore. Her first project was simple, a platform for women who had walked away from long-term relationships and were left with nothing but their name. Legal help, career counseling, therapy access. She called it Second Rise. It launched quietly, but caught fire in all the right places. Because when a woman with dignity speaks, the world listens, even if it takes time. Her inbox filled with letters, stories, gratitude. She never mentioned Daxon, not once, not in interviews, not in the soft TED-style speech she gave 3 weeks after the gala, but everyone knew. Everyone recognized her, not as his wife, not anymore, as the woman who left the billionaire and didn't vanish. While she rose, Daxon noticed something too. At first, he ignored it. The board's tension, the shift in media tone, the subtle exclusion from rooms where he once had influence. Noara had been his social compass, his credibility outside of earnings reports, and now, he was just the man who showed up with the assistant. He didn't care, until he did, because absence is a loud sound in quiet rooms, especially when it comes from someone who used to believe in you. Noara didn't watch him unravel, but others did, and by the time he tried to reach out, by the time he finally stood outside her office with a soaked collar and hands buried in his pockets, it was too late. She looked at him without malice. She let him speak. He said he thought they were just tired. She corrected him. No, you were tired. I was trying. And she didn't say it with hate. She said it with peace. That's what made it hurt. Not her absence, her peace. And as he stood there watching her walk back into the building she built without him, he finally understood what it meant to lose something not because you were caught, but because you weren't enough when it mattered. Have you ever stayed silent when you knew the truth was loud? Do you think quiet exits are stronger than public confrontations? Tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Noara's position that night? If this story already has your heart, don't wait. Tap like, share with someone who needs this, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories, where dignity always speaks louder than drama. The townhouse felt smaller than the penthouse, but it didn't echo. Noara liked that. She didn't have to walk past a floor-to-ceiling photo of her and Daxon on their wedding day. She didn't have to sit at a marble kitchen island built for 10 while eating alone. There were no automatic shades, no smart lighting, no housekeeper asking if she wanted wine with dinner. Here, she cooked her own meals, picked her own playlist, answered her own phone. Peace didn't announce itself. It just replaced the noise. She spent the first 2 weeks focusing on details, filing paperwork, hiring a small legal team to revise her contracts, cancelling her appearance at a summit Daxon was scheduled to speak at, updating her mailing address for old college friends. She didn't cry. She didn't overthink. And then came the email from her accountant. The gala she hosted, the one Daxon showed up to with Betrayal, had raised more money than projected. A lot more. Major donors had upped their support. A tech fund from Boston requested a meeting. A scholarship program in California wanted to partner. They didn't care about the headlines. They cared about the work. Noira smiled softly as she read the numbers. Then she closed her laptop and made herself a grilled cheese sandwich with real butter. Not the olive oil substitute Daxon insisted they use. Small things. Quiet wins. Late that night, she stood by the window watching the rain, her tea cooling in her hand. Across the street, lights from a law firm flickered through the fog. She used to track Daxon's schedule with that same precision. Every city, every board meeting, every fundraiser. Now, she didn't know where he was, and for the first time, she didn't need to. The next day, her attorney called. There's no request for reconciliation, no counter terms. It looks like he's not going to contest the separation. Noira felt it land in her chest like a soft knock. Not painful, just final. She thanked the attorney and hung up. An hour later, she received a delivery. No note, no message, just a small velvet box. Inside was the bracelet she had admired in a gallery window 2 years ago. She hadn't mentioned it aloud. She had only lingered for a moment as they walked past. Daxon had noticed. Back then, he remembered everything. She stared at the box for a long moment, then closed it. She didn't call him, didn't send it back either. It was never about the gifts. It was about presence, and Daxon had been gone long before she left. The following weekend, she went to a friend's art exhibition alone. Normally, she would have walked in with Daxon's hand on the small of her back, photographers calling out their names. But tonight, she wore a midnight blue dress, kept her hair loose, and walked in like she belonged. Because she did. There were whispers, a few raised eyebrows. Someone from the press asked, "Are you still Mrs. Creed?" Noira smiled. "I'm still Noira. That's enough." The reporter didn't press. After that, the conversations shifted. Her non-profit came up, her new advisory work. People were curious, not about the scandal, but about the woman who didn't fold. She didn't give them drama. She gave them growth. 2 days later, while reviewing proposals at a cafe, Noira saw a familiar figure walk past the glass. Daxon. He didn't see her. He was laughing at something Brielle said as they crossed the street. His blazer was unbuttoned, his hair slightly messy in a way she used to fix. She watched them for exactly 4 seconds, then looked back at her notes. He had moved on, at least in appearance. But appearance wasn't the truth. Noira knew that more than anyone. The truth lived in the way someone sat with you in silence, the way they looked up when you entered a room, the way they answered hard questions without deflecting. Daxon hadn't done that in months. She wasn't bitter, just awake. That night, she sat in bed with a journal she hadn't opened in 2 years. On the first page, she wrote, "I stopped asking for effort the day I realized my absence caused less discomfort than my expectations." She didn't know what she wanted to write next. She didn't need to know. It was enough to start. 3 weeks after the gala, the chairperson of a national foundation invited her to speak at a closed event, not televised. Not for headlines, just 50 women, some CEOs, some survivors, all with one thing in common. They had once loved someone who mistook their grace for weakness. Noira wore no designer gown. She walked in wearing cream slacks and a soft grey blouse. She spoke for 20 minutes. She didn't mention Daxon, but she spoke about what it meant to rebuild, to exist outside someone's shadow, to walk into rooms without fear of who you used to be. Afterward, a woman in her 50s approached her in tears. "I left my husband 3 years ago. I still don't know if I did the right thing. But tonight, you made me believe I'm not wrong for choosing peace." Noira took her hand, held it, said nothing, because not every answer needs a speech. Sometimes it's enough to just stand beside someone long enough for them to stop shaking. Later that night, back at the townhouse, Noira poured herself a glass of water and opened her bedroom window. The air was cold but fresh. She thought about calling someone, anyone, maybe a friend, maybe her sister, but she didn't. She sat on the edge of the bed and let herself feel the stillness, not the loneliness, the stillness. Then she said it aloud. Just once. He never chose me in public. and for the first time, she said it without breaking. It wasn't a wound anymore. It was a fact, a turning point, a reason to keep going. And when her phone buzzed with a new message from a contact asking about her availability for an upcoming talk in DC, she didn't hesitate. She replied, "I'm available. Let's talk." The world hadn't ended when she left Daxon Creed. It had begun, quietly, firmly, and this time, it was hers. Daxon sat in his office, staring at the fourth draft of a merger announcement he should have approved 2 hours ago. The words looked fine, strategic, neutral, on brand, but something felt off. He leaned back in his chair and glanced at the corner where Noira's orchid used to sit. It had been replaced by a minimalist sculpture, Brielle suggested. Something modern, something cold. Brielle knocked once before stepping in, holding a tablet with new campaign visuals. She smiled, adjusted her blouse, and waited for him to comment on the layout. He nodded, said it was fine, but his attention stayed on the window, on the skyline, on the part of the view that used to excite him. It didn't anymore. Brielle lingered. "You okay?" "I'm fine." She tilted her head. "You seem quiet lately." He looked at her fully for the first time all day. She looked beautiful, composed, sharp. Everything a powerful man was supposed to want standing beside him. But she wasn't Noira. She didn't know how he took his coffee without asking. She didn't leave sticky notes in his passport when he traveled. She didn't notice when he stayed up all night looking at his phone, hoping for a message that never came. She thought she was replacing a role. She wasn't. She was standing in a space Noira had already left, long before the gala. "I've just got a lot on my mind," he said. Brielle offered a small smile. "You've been doing amazing. You're the headline now, not her." He didn't respond. That night, he didn't go home. He sat in the lounge of the Creed Systems tower and scrolled through old photos on his private drive. Vacations, dinners, moments Noira had captured, always from behind the camera. She rarely posted them, but she'd keep them organized in folders with quiet labels like Lisbon. When we didn't talk about work or Montauk, you smiled without checking your phone. He found a video, a 2-minute clip from a weekend getaway. Noira had been talking to a dog they'd seen at a cafe. She didn't know the camera was rolling. She looked at peace, silly even. He played it twice. The following day, a board member stopped him after the morning briefing. "You should rethink how often Brielle appears at these functions," he said. Tone professional but direct. "Perception is bleeding into business." Daxon nodded, didn't argue. He returned to his office and stared at the gala photo that had surfaced online, the one of him and Brielle walking in together while Noira stood near the podium in the background, out of focus. He hadn't noticed her in that photo until today, and suddenly, it was all he could see. At lunch, he sat across from Brielle at a press lunch. She leaned in. "People are talking about us." "It's good." He didn't correct her. But that night, when Brielle leaned in again, this time to kiss him in the elevator, he stepped back. She blinked. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said quietly. "I just need a minute." She nodded, but didn't smile. Because she knew what that meant, and what it didn't. Across town, Noira was getting ready for a private dinner hosted by a women-led investment group. Her voice had reached further than she expected. Not because she chased visibility, but because people chased honesty. She wore a soft burgundy dress and pulled her hair into a low twist. Her earrings weren't flashy. Her heels weren't high. She wasn't dressing to impress anymore. She was dressing to belong. At the event, she sat beside a woman who ran an ethical supply chain startup and another who built an app for postpartum support. The conversation flowed, real, grounded, forward-facing. No one asked her about Daxon. No one cared. She was no longer his shadow. She was her own silhouette. When she returned home that night, she made tea, removed her makeup, and walked barefoot across the wooden floors. Her phone buzzed. Blocked number. She paused. Let it ring. No voicemail. She didn't need to guess who it was. Some things didn't need returning. A few days later, an unexpected letter arrived. Handwritten. No name on the front. but she recognized the handwriting. Inside, a short note. You were never the problem. I just didn't know how to love something I didn't control. She folded the letter once and placed it in the back of a drawer. It wasn't closure, it was confirmation. That same afternoon, a woman stopped her on the street. Mid-30s, nervous. You're Noara, right? She nodded. I saw your talk online. I left someone after 10 years. I thought I'd fall apart, but watching you made me think maybe falling apart is just the first part of building something better. Noara didn't say much. She smiled and asked the woman if she wanted to walk a block with her. They talked about nothing important. Sometimes, that's what healing looks like. When she got home, she sat down to update her non-profit's website. New grants had come in. New names joined the board. She added a new section called Quiet Power. It would feature essays from women who never made the news but rebuilt anyway. She stared at the empty draft field for a moment, then typed the first sentence. This isn't about revenge. This is about remembering I exist. She closed the laptop and let the weight lift off her chest. Somewhere across the city, Daxon sat in the back of a car, staring at an event flyer Noara had posted about on her non-profits page. He thought about attending, but didn't. He thought about texting, but didn't, because even if she forgave him, she had already moved past him. And this time, he couldn't follow. The invitation came sealed in dark gold foil with her name etched in cursive, Mrs. Noara Wynne Creed. She stared at it for a moment longer than necessary. It was the only place where her name was still hyphenated. Her bank statements, her non-profit, her passport, they all said just Noara Wynne now. But this gala had been planned a year ago, back when she and Daxon still attended these events as a unit, back when she used to memorize speeches and schedule red carpet interviews around his flight itineraries. The venue was a rooftop space in Midtown, one of Daxon's favorites. He liked the height, the skyline, the way the city looked like something he owned from that far up. Noara considered not going, but then again, she wasn't hiding. She replied with a simple attending, added a note about declining the VIP table, and closed the laptop. On the night of the event, she dressed with calm precision. Her dress was matte black, off-shoulder, minimal jewelry, clean, intentional, the kind of look that didn't whisper for attention, but refused to be overlooked. The driver waited as she walked down from the townhouse. No press outside, no curious eyes. She slipped into the car without a word and rode in silence. The elevator to the rooftop opened into warm lighting and champagne flutes. Waiters circled with canapes. Music hummed just under the sound of clinking glass. She took a glass of sparkling water and made her way to a group of colleagues she hadn't seen in months. And then she felt it before she saw it. That small shift in air. The tiny hush that happens when someone with influence enters a room. Daxon had arrived. He walked in 10 minutes after her. Of course he did, never early. Always planned, always ready to reclaim a spotlight that no longer fit. And beside him, Betrayal. She wore a green dress, emerald, smooth like silk, and meant to shimmer under these lights. Noara didn't freeze. She didn't shift her weight or look away. She lifted her chin just slightly, sipped her drink, and kept talking. She heard them long before they neared her, Daxon's deep voice brushing. Over light conversation, Brielle's laugh, calculated and soft. When they were within arm's reach, Daxon's eyes met hers. He paused. She didn't. Not until Brielle stepped forward with the same confidence she wore at the last gala. "Good evening," Brielle said smoothly. "Beautiful turnout. I hear you had a hand in the committee." "I did," Noara replied. "Glad you made it." There was a beat of silence. Daxon stood quietly. Noara's gaze moved to him. "Daxon, Noara, nothing more. No apology, no smirk, no attempt at charm. They didn't need it." The history between them filled the space like fog. Brielle excused herself to greet someone else. Daxon stayed. "I didn't think you'd come," he said finally. "I'm not the one who hides," she said evenly. He looked down. Then back at her. "You look good. I feel good." He hesitated. "I haven't seen you since I remember." She cut in gently. "I don't need it replayed." He nodded. Silence stretched between them, the kind that used to be filled with unspoken connection. Now it was just air. She let it sit. Let it turn uncomfortable for him, not for her. "I'll see you inside," she said simply, and walked away. She didn't look back. Inside the ballroom, speeches began. The host praised the donors, the sponsors, the volunteers. Noira's name came up briefly, a cornerstone of the planning team, and she accepted the applause with a nod. From the corner of her eye, she could feel Daxon watching her. She didn't flinch. Later, as the crowd moved toward the dance floor, she stepped outside onto the terrace. The air was cool. The city lights stretched beneath her like a quiet audience. She stood there, calm, hands resting on the stone railing. And then she heard the door open behind her. "I figured I'd find you out here," Daxon said. "I needed a breather." He stood beside her, not close enough to touch. "You always hated crowded rooms." "I stopped hating them when I stopped entering them as a side character." He looked at her. "That's not how I saw you." "No," she said, turning slightly, "but it's how you treated me." He didn't argue. "I messed up." She didn't respond. "I thought you'd always be there." "I was, until it became a room I didn't recognize anymore." He leaned on the railing, head low. "I don't know how to fix it." "You can't." He looked at her again. "That's it?" She nodded. "That's it." For a moment, they stood in silence again. But this time, Noira wasn't waiting for him to speak. She was waiting to walk away. And when she did it the same way she'd walked down the aisle all those years ago. Straight, certain, and unapologetically herself. Back inside, Noira moved through the ballroom with the same ease she once used to glide beside Daxon. But this time, there was no performance. No need to calculate where the cameras were or who might be whispering. She was no longer a piece in anyone's image. She was a presence. She stopped near the back bar, placing her empty glass on the tray and exchanging a few words with a board member about an upcoming conference. Light conversation, focused. It felt good. From across the room, Daxon watched her speak, saw her smile, small, reserved, genuine. Not the practiced smile she wore when she stood beside him in press photos. This one reached her eyes. He remembered that look. He remembered how she used to smile at him when he said something clever, when he pulled her into a kitchen dance without warning, when she read his drafts late at night and teased his sentence structure. That smile had faded long before she left. He just hadn't noticed, not until it was no longer his to lose. "Dax." Brielle's voice cut into his thoughts. "You're quiet tonight." He blinked, then turned to her. "Just thinking." She tilted her head. "About everything." Brielle shifted her stance, her hand brushing his arm. "Do you regret it?" she asked plainly. He didn't answer right away. The music shifted as a string quartet picked up a classic jazz tune. "I regret that I didn't listen when it mattered," he said. Brielle's lips parted slightly. To her, to myself, she looked away. "I never lied to you. I know. I never asked you to choose me. You didn't have to." That silence again. Brielle wasn't emotional. She never begged, never pushed. She just existed in the space Noira had once filled. But now, even that space felt different. Daxon's hand dropped to his side. He didn't reach for her. Across the ballroom, Noira accepted a slow dance from a colleague, one she had worked with years ago, before she paused her career to support Daxon's vision. He wasn't a suitor, not tonight, maybe not ever, but he held her gently, respectfully. She laughed at something he whispered. Daxon stared, not with anger, not with jealousy, with clarity. That laugh, he hadn't earned it in years. The dance ended, and Noira excused herself gracefully. She headed for the exit, nodding her goodbyes, accepting compliments, giving hugs that meant something. When she stepped into the elevator, she didn't expect anyone to follow. But just as the doors began to close, a hand reached through. Daxon stepped inside. They stood in silence as the elevator descended. Noira didn't face him. She watched the numbers drop. 20, 19, 18. He cleared his throat. Can I say one thing? I never meant for it to happen that way. She didn't turn. You mean publicly? He exhaled. At all? That's hard to believe. I was stupid. You were selfish. He swallowed. Yeah. They passed floor 12, then 11. He stepped slightly closer. I've been to events. I've smiled. I've posed. But it's not the same. It's not supposed to be. Are you happier? He asked, voice lower. She finally turned to him. I'm not performing. He nodded. Look down. I watched you tonight. You were calm. I am. I miss that. She paused. You miss the way I made you feel. He didn't argue. I miss you, he said anyway. The elevator stopped at the lobby. She didn't move at first. Then she said, missing me doesn't mean you loved me well, and stepped out. She didn't look back. He didn't follow. Outside, her car pulled around. The driver opened the door. She sat in, exhaled, and closed her eyes briefly. Inside the elevator, Daxon rode back up alone. Back at the penthouse, Betrayal was gone. A note left on the counter. You're not really here. He didn't respond. He poured himself a glass of scotch he didn't want and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The skyline looked the same, but nothing else did. He picked up his phone, scrolled to Noira's name, stared, then locked the screen. Noira, back at the townhouse, didn't wait for him to call. She wasn't bitter. She was simply done. That night, she made tea, changed into soft cotton, and opened her laptop. She reviewed the next week's speaking schedule and the volunteer intake for her non-profit. Her world was full. It didn't need noise. She closed the browser and turned off the light. In the quiet, her breath came easy. Not because she had healed completely, but because she no longer carried the weight of being someone else's afterthought. And in that silence, she slept better than she had in years. The townhouse didn't have sweeping views, but it had something Noira had longed for: privacy without performance. She moved slower now, not because she was broken, but because she didn't have to rush to keep up with someone else's schedule. She no longer stayed up late formatting presentations or prepping Daxon's press notes. Her calendar belonged to her. Her days were quiet, but intentional. One morning, while organizing her bookshelf, she found a note wedged inside a novel, one Daxon had gifted her on their second anniversary. The handwriting was familiar, sharp, confident. To the woman who built my world. D. She stared at the line for a moment, then closed the book and placed it at the bottom of a box marked for donation. That world didn't exist anymore. A knock interrupted her sorting. It wasn't scheduled. Her housekeeper wasn't due until tomorrow, and her team knew better than to show up unannounced. She opened the door. It wasn't Daxon, it was Cale, Daxon's older brother. They'd never been close, but there was mutual respect. Cale was quieter than his brother, more observant. He had kept his distance during the marriage, but never out of coldness. Noira, he said gently. Do you have a moment? She stepped aside and let him in. He looked around, noticing the space. Fewer designer accents than the penthouse. No statement furniture, just warmth, simplicity, peace. I won't take long, he said, sitting. You're fine. Cale didn't speak immediately. Then he sighed. He's unraveling. She said nothing. He doesn't talk about it. But he's off, shows up late, misses his own cues in meetings. That merger you helped him prepare for last year, he nearly blew it. She folded her arms loosely. And you think telling me that will change something? No, Cale admitted. But you deserve to know he's not fine, even if he pretends he is. She softened, only slightly. He made his choice. I know, and I'm not here to plead his case. I'm here to acknowledge he never should have risked losing you. That pulled something in her chest. Not pain, just the sting of being seen too late. "I appreciate the respect," she said. He stood to leave, then paused. "You still love him?" "I don't love who he became." Cale nodded once. "If you ever need help, any kind, I'll be around." He left with no pressure, no manipulation, just quiet honesty. Later that evening, Noara stepped out for dinner with one of her non-profits partners, a woman named Lydia, recently separated and managing a legal clinic for domestic rights. They laughed, swapped stories, and discussed a future retreat for women rebuilding from high-profile breakups. The food was good, the energy better. When Noara returned home, she found a single envelope tucked into her mailbox. No address, just her name, written in thick black ink. Inside, a single photograph, her and Daxon. It was from their engagement shoot. She'd forgotten it existed. They were standing in the rain, not posing, just laughing as the photographer caught a candid shot of Daxon lifting her off the ground to avoid a puddle. Back when things were easy, back when the weight hadn't settled, Noara didn't cry. She simply placed the photo in the trash and walked upstairs. Because memories don't excuse betrayal, they only remind you how much you gave to someone who stopped deserving it. The next morning, she sat with her team at Second Rise and outlined a new initiative, Behind the Curtain, a 6-part documentary project on women who had walked away from power and started over. She didn't want it to be about her, but her team disagreed. "You're the story," one of them said. "Not the scandal, the strength." Noara hesitated. She didn't want to become content, but she understood the importance of visibility. She agreed to narrate the pilot. As the cameras rolled weeks later, she stood in front of a blank grey wall and spoke clearly, calmly. "I wasn't cheated on behind closed doors. I was erased in plain sight, and it didn't destroy me. It forced me to rebuild." The footage went viral. Daxon saw it the night it dropped. He didn't make it past the 3rd minute, not because it wasn't powerful, but because the part that cut deepest wasn't her words, it was the tone. She sounded free, and he had nothing to do with it. Daxon stared at the paused screen. Noara's face was still, composed. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't even said his name. But every word told the story of what he'd done, not with malice, not even with rage, but with indifference. And she had survived it. He sat in the darkness of his penthouse, surrounded by the same curated furniture, the same skyline, and the same silence that now sounded like consequence. He tried to watch the rest of the documentary clip, but turned it off at minute 6. Not because it wasn't powerful, because it made him feel something he had spent months avoiding. Regret. The kind of regret that no apology could soften. The kind that came when you realized the person you betrayed had not just moved on, but risen. He pulled out his phone, scrolled to her name, typed, deleted, typed again, deleted again. What was he going to say? He didn't have the right to comment on her story. She had let the world see what it meant to lose someone quietly, and he had nothing to offer now but acknowledgement, and even that felt like theft. The next morning, Daxon arrived at his office late. He stayed behind closed doors. Meetings were rescheduled. His executive assistant knocked 3 times before entering. Only 2. Find him seated, tie undone, eyes fixed on a newspaper front page. There she was. Noara Wynne. The headline read, "From power couple to purpose, how she chose her own legacy." Brielle walked in moments later. She had seen the same headline earlier and pretended not to care. But she did, and so did he. "You going to reach out?" she asked carefully. Daxon didn't answer, because he already had. The night before, he sent a message. "You don't have to respond. I just want to say you looked strong. You always were. I'm sorry I ever made you doubt that." She hadn't replied, and he didn't expect her to. Brielle crossed her arms. "You loved her more than you admitted." "I loved her more than I understood," he said quietly. Brielle turned to leave, then paused. "You can be sorry, Dax, but don't try to pull her back just because the rooms feel colder now." She walked out without waiting for a response. That evening, Noira sat on her townhouse balcony, sipping tea and reviewing a proposal from a global wellness brand that wanted to fund her new retreat center. The world moved fast when you stopped waiting for someone else to center you. Her phone buzzed. A text from her lawyer. Property division complete. Final documents will be filed this week. It was done. No more shared accounts. No more mutual assets. No more lingering logistics. She was free. She replied with a simple, "Thank you," then stood, walked inside, and took one last look at the black coat in her hallway closet, the one Daxon left behind the night of their final fight. She picked it up, dropped it in the donation bin, and closed the lid. 3 days later, Noira attended a private networking event hosted by one of her new partners. The venue was quiet, elegant, a rooftop lounge wrapped in soft lighting and velvet chairs. She wore a bronze jumpsuit with a deep neckline and a confidence that didn't ask for permission. As she mingled, a man approached her. He was tall, dark hair, mid-40s, introduced himself as Lachlan, an architect from Boston who had followed her work. He didn't mention Daxon. He didn't pretend not to recognize her. Instead, he asked her about the women her organization helped. "What's the hardest part?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Getting them to believe they can still start over," she answered. "Once that clicks, the rest follows." He smiled. "Sounds like it applies to more than just them." She didn't deny it. He offered to get her another drink. She accepted. They talked for an hour. Nothing flirtatious. Just soft, adult conversation between two people who knew the value of being seen without performance. When she left, he didn't ask for her number. But he handed her his card, said, "If you ever want to keep the conversation going." She took it, smiled. That night, she placed the card on her kitchen counter and left it there. She didn't know what she'd do with it, but the choice was hers. That was the point. Meanwhile, Daxon stood at the edge of his office during a corporate reception. He shook hands, smiled at the right jokes, responded to the right introductions, but none of it touched him. He left early, went home, turned on the lights, turned them off again. He sat in the dark, staring at the framed photo that still hadn't been taken down, him and Noira standing in front of their first townhouse, back when everything felt like partnership. He picked up the frame, stared at it, then placed it face down, not to erase it, just to accept that it wasn't his anymore. That same night, Noira drafted the last page of her speech for an upcoming national conference. She wrote, "We don't fall apart because we're weak. We fall apart when we've been strong for too long. But what matters most is what we build afterward. Because love shouldn't cost you your voice. And healing isn't loud, it's calm, it's honest. And sometimes it looks like walking away when no one claps." She closed her laptop and turned off the light. The townhouse was still, not lonely, just still. And in that stillness, she found the kind of peace no marriage, no wealth, and no betrayal could take from her again. It was almost 1 in the morning when Noira sat up in bed, her room lit only by the soft glow of her phone screen. The day had been long, filled with meetings, interviews, and a planning session for a women's retreat scheduled in the fall. But her mind wouldn't quiet. She scrolled through old emails, nothing dramatic, just sorting. Then she found it, a message from 3 years ago. Subject line, "Best partner in business, best partner in life." It was from Daxon, a thank you note after their first global product launch. The body of the message was warm, appreciative, and personal. Back then, he still said things like, "I couldn't have done this without you, and you see things in me no one else does." She read it once, twice, then deleted it. Not out of anger, just clarity. She wasn't that version of herself anymore. And he wasn't that man. Across the city, Daxon sat in a meeting room long after everyone had gone. His assistant had left hours earlier. His team had wrapped, but he couldn't go home, not yet. He looked at the massive window behind him. The skyline didn't feel powerful tonight. It felt hollow. His phone lit up. No new messages. He hadn't expected one, especially not from her. Still, He thought about her more than he wanted to admit. He opened his photo album and tapped on a picture from their trip to Positano. Noira had taken it on a cliffside just after breakfast. She wasn't looking at the camera. Her face was turned toward the sea. She looked free. Even then, he hadn't said what he needed to. He wondered what it would take to get that kind of peace now. And he knew the answer. Letting her go, not the memory. The possibility. He closed the album and opened a blank note. Began typing something he might never send. You weren't perfect, but you were always enough. I was the one who chased noise and mistook it for joy. I don't miss the version of us people knew. I miss the version that never made it to photos. He saved it, closed the phone, and left the building without looking back. Noira, meanwhile, had turned off her phone and was lighting a single candle in her bathroom. She wasn't one for rituals, but she liked the quiet space it made. She stood in front of the mirror, studying herself, not with criticism, not with regret, with calm recognition. She wasn't trying to be stronger anymore. She already was. The next morning, she walked to her favorite coffee shop, the one with creaky floorboards and mismatched mugs. The barista smiled when he saw her. The usual, "Yes, please." She found a corner table, opened her laptop, and began reviewing stories. Submitted to Quiet Power, her non-profit's new digital column. Women from all over the country had written in, some anonymous, some signed. One stood out. A woman wrote about staying in a 20-year marriage where her name was never on a single deed. She raised 3 kids, supported every promotion, but the day her husband left, she realized she didn't even own her own couch. Noira paused after reading the line. "I gave him everything and asked for nothing. Turns out, that's what I got." She didn't cry. She didn't wince. She just kept reading, because pain like that deserved an audience that wouldn't turn away. She sent a note to her team, "We'll feature this one, but I want to speak to her directly." Set it up. Minutes later, her phone buzzed. A message, unknown number. "I saw your interview. I didn't know how to respond to your message. I still don't, but I hope you're finding what you always gave me, stability. Daxon." She stared at the screen. Didn't type back. Didn't delete it either. Just let it sit. By noon, she was back in meetings. One with a tech startup, another with a legal rights group. She spoke calmly, with insight and structure. She was building more than a platform now. She was building a legacy. At the end of the day, she walked into a bookstore before heading home. She hadn't browsed shelves in months. In the self-development aisle, a man was crouched down, reading the back of a book on boundaries. He glanced up, recognized her. "You're Noira Wynn." She smiled gently. "I am. I saw your talk last month. You said something about love not being ownership." She nodded. "I remember." He held up the book. "That's why I'm here." She smiled again. "Good choice." He didn't ask for a photo, didn't overstay, just said, "Thanks," and went back to reading. She left the store with 2 books of her own and a quiet sense that the world was healing, one moment at a time. That evening, while filing papers, she found her old journal again. She flipped to a blank page and wrote, "He didn't love the parts of me that challenged him. He loved the parts that made him feel larger, and I stayed small for too long. But I'm not shrinking anymore." She closed the journal and made tea. No emails, no headlines. Just quiet. Just her. And for now, that was more than enough. The next week moved slowly for Daxon. He made it to meetings, answered emails, even landed a new partnership with a rising tech accelerator. But everything he touched felt mechanical. His rhythm was off. People noticed. His assistant began taking on tasks he used to insist on handling personally. A senior director asked, politely, if he needed to delegate more. He nodded, not because he agreed, but because he didn't care enough to argue. He was present, but not really there. He hadn't spoken to Brielle since the night she left a handwritten note and never came back. He didn't try to stop her. That wasn't about punishment. It was acknowledgement. He had nothing left to give her either. At night, he walked through the penthouse, and realized how little of it felt like his. The designer furniture, the cold art, the view that once impressed clients. It was a gallery of wins that didn't warm him anymore. He thought about selling it. But selling would mean letting go of the one place Noara once made feel like home. So instead, he wandered through rooms like a ghost, opening drawers, picking up the remnants of a life once filled with her. He found her old tea strainer in the kitchen drawer, bent slightly at the rim, probably from too much use. She always insisted on loose leaf blends, said bags were for people who didn't know what real comfort tasted like. He ran his fingers over the handle, then dropped it into the trash without hesitation. That chapter had already closed. Across the city, Noara stood in front of a group of 20 women, seated in a circle. The first day of the Rise Weekend Retreat was underway, a non-profit's newest program, created to give women in transition a space to rebuild quietly, without judgment or spectacle. Each woman had arrived with her own story. Some had left controlling marriages, others were navigating custody battles. A few were simply trying to find who they used to be before the titles, wife, mother, partner, took over. Noara opened the session. "I'm not here to tell you what to do," she began. "I'm here to remind you that your story didn't end when someone stopped seeing your value." Eyes locked on her. She continued, "Someone once told me that walking away without slamming doors is the strongest kind of power. I didn't understand it then, but I do now, and so will you." The room stayed quiet. No clapping, no questions, just impact. Later, after the breakout sessions, one of the younger attendees, Mira, approached her with a notebook clutched to her chest. "You said something in your interview once," she said, voice low, "that being forgotten by someone you would have burned for doesn't mean you're worthless." That stuck with me. Noara smiled. "It's the truth." Mira's eyes welled up. "I thought it was my fault, that I didn't fight hard enough to keep his attention." "You're not meant to compete for what you should have always had," Noara said. "Attention isn't love, it's noise. Love is remembering you even when the room is loud." Mira nodded. Noara hugged her gently. These were the moments that built her back. Not applause, not press. Moments like that. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills of the retreat center, she stood barefoot in the grass and watched the sky change. She felt something she hadn't felt in years, weightlessness. Not because the past vanished, but because she no longer carried it for anyone else. Her phone buzzed in her bag. She almost ignored it, then checked. A voicemail from Daxon. She didn't press play, not yet. Instead, she put the phone face down, walked back toward the group cabin, and focused on the dinner they were preparing together. Laughter spilled from the kitchen. Someone was dancing. The music was bad, but the joy was real. She didn't need closure right now. She needed presence. Daxon, pacing the penthouse, wondered if she'd listened to the message. It wasn't dramatic. He hadn't rehearsed it. He'd simply said, "I know I can't undo the way I made you feel. I see it now, in the way the world respects you, in the way you speak, in the silence you left behind. You were never fragile. I was just too weak to stand beside someone strong. I hope the people around you now don't need rebuilding to see your worth. I hope they arrive already knowing. No follow-up, no request to meet." He ended the call and stared at the ceiling. Because this time, it wasn't about her hearing it. It was about finally saying it. The next morning, Noara listened to the message just once, then deleted it. She didn't cry, didn't smile either. It was neutral. It was necessary. Later that afternoon, she took a walk around the retreat property with one of the mentors, an older woman named Eleanor, who had survived a 28-year marriage and built an advocacy network from scratch. Eleanor glanced over during their stroll. "Do you still love him?" Noara didn't rush to answer. I love the version of him I once believed in, but that's not the same as loving the man who left me standing in rooms alone." Eleanor nodded. "Sounds like clarity." Noara shrugged softly. "Sounds like healing." That evening, she wrote a closing note for the retreat workbook, a letter to the women who had come. And to herself, you don't owe anyone an explanation for how long it took you to leave. You stayed because you loved, you left because you learned, and every moment after that is yours, not his, not theirs, yours. She closed the notebook, stood by the window as the stars appeared, and for the first time in a long time, she let herself feel proud, not for surviving him, but for never losing herself again. Have you ever realized your silence spoke louder than your words ever could? Tell us in the comments, was Noara right to let him hear her strength through distance instead of replies? Share your thoughts below. Like this video if you believe walking away can be an act of power. Subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more stories that remind you love isn't always loud, but dignity echoes forever. Daxon sat at the edge of his hotel bed, one hand resting on his knee, the other holding a remote he hadn't used in hours. He was supposed to be in Miami for a conference, 3 days of networking, keynotes, and private investor meetings, but he hadn't left the room. His team had covered for him. He stared at a blank screen, his thoughts elsewhere. His phone had been quiet all day. No one to text, no one he wanted to hear from. Noara's voice from the documentary looped in his memory. I wasn't cheated on behind closed doors. I was erased in plain sight. She didn't even say it with anger. That's what haunted him. He had tried, in his own way, to rebuild focus, to show up to the version of life that was expected of him. But his mind wandered, always to her. Not out of longing, but accountability. It had taken losing her to realize how invisible he'd made her feel. Not through insults, but by omission. She wasn't just a wife. She had been his foundation, and he'd ignored the cracks until she was gone. That night, he ordered room service but barely touched the food. He scrolled through a list of speaking engagements, noticed her name on an upcoming panel in Seattle, and wondered if she knew he'd be in the same building. He closed the browser. He wasn't going to make this about appearances again. Across the country, Noara was walking through the newly leased space for her non-profit's headquarters. It wasn't large, but it was everything she needed. Natural light, open rooms, quiet corners where women could breathe. The lease had been approved 2 weeks ago. Her team had painted the walls a soft beige, filled the offices with local artwork, and installed a reading corner in the break room stocked with donated books. She ran her fingers along the edge of the reception desk, smiled. This place had nothing to do with her past. It was forward, purposeful. Her operations manager walked over, beaming. We just confirmed next month's guest mentors, 2 CEOs and a family therapist from Denver. All 3 are in. Noara nodded. Perfect. Let's draft the event outline. They walked to her office, bare for now except a plant near the window and a pinboard covered in handwritten quotes from the women they'd helped. She sat down and glanced at the to-do list. One name caught her eye. Kaylin Vance, a filmmaker interested in adapting the Quiet Power series into a short docu-series for a streaming platform. She wasn't sure yet. She had turned down several offers already, but Kaylin's team had written with empathy. No clickbait, no scandal chasing. She circled the name for follow-up. Before she could move to the next task, her assistant walked in with a small envelope. From the morning mail, no return address. Noara took it slowly. Inside, a short note. Your silence taught me more than my ego ever let me learn. Thank you for leaving when I gave you every reason not to. D. No return address. She folded the note, didn't react, just placed it in a drawer and locked it. Not to hide it, to move forward. That weekend, she attended a wellness conference as one of the keynote speakers. Her panel focused on healing in public without performing pain. The room was packed. The audience asked real questions. One woman raised her hand and asked, "How do you know when you've truly healed?" Noara thought for a moment, then answered, "When their name stops being your mirror." That line was quoted across social media the next morning. She didn't repost it, didn't need to. After the panel, she stood outside the hotel waiting for her car. A voice called her name. Familiar, low. She turned. Daxon stood 10 feet away. He wasn't dressed for cameras. No jacket. Just slacks and a dark shirt, sleeves rolled up, hands visible. She didn't flinch. He stepped forward slowly. "I'm not here to ask for anything," he said first. She waited. "I saw your panel." She nodded once. "You're good at what you do," he added. "I always was." He exhaled. "I didn't always see that." "No," she said quietly. "You didn't." Silence stretched between them. Not tense, not soft either. He finally said, "I sent a note. Didn't know if you read it." "I did. I'm sorry. I know." He looked down. Then back up. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "Not time, not explanation. I just needed to say it out loud. In person." Once, Noira studied him. This wasn't the Daxon who once stood smug beside her, confident she'd never walk. This was someone else, someone emptied. She didn't pity him, but she didn't hate him either. "Thank you for saying it," she said. He nodded, took a step back. "I hope this new chapter gives you peace." She didn't reply. He didn't wait. He walked away. And this time, she didn't watch him leave, because the chapter wasn't new anymore. She'd been living in it long enough to know it was hers. Later that evening, after returning from the conference, Noira sat in her quiet kitchen with a glass of water and her planner. Her mind wasn't on the next event, or the thank you emails she needed to send, or the guest feedback that had already begun trickling in. It was on the way Daxon looked when he spoke to her. He hadn't come to argue, or plead. He hadn't asked her to come back. There was no pretense in his eyes, only something close to regret. The kind that sat deep and didn't need validation. She wasn't moved by it, but she recognized it, and that was closure enough. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. "Your quote's going viral again. Want me to prep a post?" Noira smiled faintly and typed back, "Let them carry it on their own. I'm done explaining." She closed the planner and stepped outside onto her balcony. The city pulsed below, a quiet reminder that the world didn't stop moving for heartbreak or healing. It kept spinning, and so had she. The next morning, she arrived at the new headquarters earlier than usual. She liked to walk through the space before anyone else arrived. It helped her think. In the community lounge, she found a single sheet of paper left on the coffee table, a printed quote typed neatly. "Healing isn't revenge. Healing is what happens when you stop needing their explanation to reclaim your peace." One of the interns must have left it. She pinned it to the board. As the team arrived, the building filled with light conversation, footsteps, laughter. It was alive in a way her old life had never been. By noon, they were preparing for a virtual panel with 3 other female founders. Noira didn't over-rehearse her part. She had long stopped worrying about being perfect. Truth, she learned, was more valuable than polish. During the panel, a host asked her, "What's one thing you know now that you wish you'd known before your public breakup?" Noira didn't hesitate. That peace isn't found in answers. It's found in knowing who you are without them. A quiet pause followed. Then, applause. She didn't smile. She didn't bask in it. She just moved on to the next question. That evening, she walked home instead of driving. She passed the old building where she used to meet Daxon for lunch, the bakery, where he once surprised her with almond croissant, the alley where they'd hidden from paparazzi and kissed like they were still figuring each other out. She didn't stop, didn't linger, just noticed, then kept walking. Because memory wasn't a place to live. It was a place to recognize and leave behind. Back in the penthouse, Daxon sat across from his brother Cale, the one who had warned him a year ago, "Don't let someone walk away thinking they were invisible." Cale sipped his drink slowly. "You saw her." Daxon nodded. "She forgive you?" "I didn't ask." Cale gave a half smile. "That's new." Daxon didn't laugh. "She doesn't owe me anything, and she's not mine to fix anything with." Cale leaned back. "So what now?" Daxon looked around the space, the untouched piano, the too clean kitchen, the wall of wine he hadn't opened. "I think I'm going to move." Cale raised an eyebrow. "This place was built for both of us," Daxon said. I just didn't realize how empty it would feel without her until she left. Cale nodded. You moving because you miss her, or because you're finally growing up? Both. They didn't talk much after that. But when Cale left, Daxon walked through the apartment one last time and began sorting what he'd keep and what belonged to the version of him that no longer deserved her. 2 weeks later, Noira walked through the entryway of a new building. A space offered to her non-profit at a massive discount by a real estate developer who had quietly followed her journey. He said he wanted the property to hold power. She smiled. It already will. The final walkthrough was silent. She imagined the walls filled with stories, the rooms turned into safe spaces, the corners wrapped in softness, not luxury but safety. Her phone buzzed as she locked up. A message from Lachlan, the architect she'd met briefly months ago. Still thinking about that conversation. Still hope we can pick it up. She paused, not because she was unsure, but because for the first time in a long time, she had space to decide what she wanted next. She typed back, I'm open to continuing. Let me know when you're in the city, and that was it. She wasn't seeking anything. She wasn't resisting anything either. She was just available to life, to newness, to her own rhythm. That night, she sat on her rooftop and watched the lights flicker across the city. She thought about all the time she'd waited, for answers, for apologies, for recognition, for love to look like what she gave. But now, she wasn't waiting anymore. She was living. And in that stillness, a quiet smile rose to her lips. She had finally become the version of herself she once believed she needed someone else to unlock, but she had done it alone. And she wasn't looking back. Rain clung to the city like breath against glass. Noira stepped out of the rideshare with her umbrella low and her coat cinched tight. She didn't rush. Her heels tapped steadily across the sidewalk as she neared the old brick building, now redesigned as the Second Rise Retreat Center. Today was launch day, not a press event, not a media spectacle. This was for the women, the ones rebuilding in silence, the ones learning to exist without apology. Inside, the main room was already buzzing with quiet voices. The scent of cinnamon tea drifted in from the kitchen. Volunteers placed chairs in a semicircle, arranged name tags, and lit softly scented candles to warm the space. Noira walked in and felt it. Presence. Not perfection, not performance. Just presence. She paused at the door, took a breath. This wasn't the end of a journey. It was an extension of one. 2 years ago, she had been the one walking into rooms hoping not to fall apart. Now, she was building those rooms for others. In the front row sat Mira, the young woman from the first retreat, now a team leader. She waved. You ready? Noira smiled. I've been ready. I just didn't know it. The session began with soft music and a breathing exercise led by Eleanor, her longtime mentor. Then came stories, not rehearsed, not sensational, just honest. A woman who had left a marriage after discovering her voice in therapy. Another who had lived in silence through financial abuse and finally opened her own bakery. Each one shared not just what they survived, but what they were becoming. When it was Noira's turn, she didn't walk to the front. She stayed seated. I used to think strength meant not breaking, she said. But I've learned that strength is breaking open and rebuilding with softer hands. No one clapped. They didn't need to. The room understood. Later, while pouring tea for guests in the back lounge, Noira's assistant approached her with an envelope. This came to the foundation mailbox, she said. I didn't recognize the name on the return, but I thought you should see it. Noira wiped her hands and took the envelope. Inside was a typed letter. No name, no signature. You changed my wife's life. I didn't know what she was carrying until she left. I don't blame her. I admire her. I used to resent your name in our house. Now I say it with respect. Thank you. Noira folded the letter, set it aside, and let the warmth of the moment settle without interruption. That evening, after the event closed, she walked alone through the halls of the center. The walls weren't painted yet. The lights were still temporary. but every corner felt intentional. She stopped in one of the future quiet rooms, a place meant for women to sit alone with their thoughts, or their grief, or their relief. There was a small bench by the window. She sat. Outside, the rain hadn't stopped. Across the city, Daxon stood in a downtown suite, addressing a small circle of investors. His voice was calm, his pitch tight, his presence composed. But something had shifted. He wasn't trying to impress anymore. He wasn't anchoring his worth in applause. He finished his presentation, answered questions, and shook hands. No flash, no spectacle. Back in his hotel room, he opened his laptop and reviewed a press release. His PR team had drafted Creed Systems pivots toward human-centered tech. He made a few notes, edited the phrasing, then paused. Staring at the sentence, Daxon Creed leads this next chapter with precision, vision, and legacy. He deleted legacy. He wasn't sure what his legacy was anymore. And maybe that was the point. He opened his email. A new message from his brother Cale sat unread. Subject line, saw her again. You won't believe what she's built. Daxon didn't open it. He didn't need to. He already knew. She wasn't just building a company. She was building a standard. And he would never be part of it. He leaned back and stared at the ceiling, then opened a draft folder he hadn't touched in weeks. It was a long letter, never sent, but still there. He read it once, twice, then deleted it. Not out of anger, out of acceptance. She didn't need his letters, and he no longer needed to pretend they would change anything. The following week, Noira attended a charity gala, her first in over a year. Not as a spouse, not as someone's guest, as a founder. Her name was on the donor wall, her non-profit listed as a featured partner. She wore a gold gown that shimmered but didn't shout, her hair pinned back, her posture steady. She walked into the venue alone, and alone was no longer a statement. It was simply the truth. Inside, she greeted familiar faces, politely sidestepped old friends of Daxon's, smiled through quick conversations. Then she found herself seated next to Lachlan, the architect she had met months ago. Long time, he said with a smile. Feels like a different lifetime, she replied. He raised his glass slightly. To new ones then. They spoke throughout the evening, nothing forced, nothing implied, just comfort. At the end of the night he asked, "May I walk you out?" She nodded. Outside, the air was cool, the city quieted. He turned to her before the valet pulled up. No assumptions, no expectations. Just a question. Would you have dinner with me sometime? Noira paused, then smiled. Yes. Back in her townhouse that night, she removed her earrings slowly, washed her face, wrapped herself in a robe, and stood by the window. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't afraid, because she had learned something precious. Love, when it came again, wouldn't be a rescue. It would be a partnership. It wouldn't ask her to shrink. It would rise to meet her. And if it never came, she would still be whole, because she had already become the woman she needed to be, on her own. The next morning came without fanfare. Noira stretched slowly in bed, the silk sheets cool against her skin. The light pouring through her curtains was soft, filtered by clouds still lingering after the rain. She checked her phone. No messages from Daxon, none expected, but one from Lachlan. Last night was nice. No rush on dinner. Just glad we spoke again. She smiled. No pressure, no performance. She responded simply, "Same here," then set the phone down. In the kitchen, she brewed her tea, the same way she did every morning, slow, intentional, without noise. She no longer filled the silence with background TV or social media scrolls. Silence didn't scare her anymore. It centered her. She sat at the dining table and opened her planner. 3 meetings today, 2 related to the foundation, one with the city zoning department about expanding the retreat center into an adjacent property. A year ago, she wouldn't have known how to handle that. Today, she had a lawyer on retainer, a project manager on speed dial and full funding. Her life wasn't louder now, it was deeper. Across town, Daxon stood in his office at Creed Systems, overlooking the skyline. His assistant buzzed in. "Your 10 a.m. with the advisory board is waiting in the conference room. I'll be right there." He smoothed his tie, exhaled, and glanced at the corner shelf. There, where a photo of him and Noira once stood, now sat a small glass award from a leadership forum. It meant less than it once would have. He grabbed his tablet and headed out. The meeting went smoothly. Efficient, respectful, even collaborative. But afterward, as he stood by the window, a lingering thought pressed into his chest. He missed being seen, not for status, for sincerity. He missed being called out, gently, truthfully, the way only Noira had ever done. He hadn't lost a wife. He had lost a mirror. That afternoon, Noira met with her project manager at the expansion site. The building next to the retreat center was an old print shop. The bones were solid, the layout perfect for private counseling rooms and creative spaces. They walked through each corner, outlining the potential. "You sure you're ready for this scale-up?" her manager asked. Noira smiled. "I used to wait until I felt ready," she said. "Now I move when the vision is clear." As they wrapped up, a woman walked by with a little girl who stared at the construction signs curiously. Noira waved gently. The girl waved back. And in that moment, Noira imagined what it would mean for future generations to inherit spaces like this. Spaces built from pain, turned into peace. Not every legacy is built through marriage. Some are built through healing. Later that evening, Noira visited her parents' home. Her mother had cooked. Her father had trimmed the hedges. The ordinary beauty of their life made her heart soften. "I saw your name in a business article," her mother said proudly, handing her a bowl of okra soup. "They said you were changing the face of quiet recovery." Noira laughed. "I didn't know recovery had a face," her father added. "It does now." They ate slowly, talked about nothing urgent. Life didn't have to be heavy to be meaningful. After dinner, her mother walked her to the car. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. "I am," Noira replied. "Not all the time, but enough." Her mother nodded, then whispered something she hadn't said in years. "I'm proud of how you walked away, not for surviving, for how she walked away, with grace, not revenge, with silence, not spectacle, with clarity, not chaos." Noira drove home in the dark, the streetlights blinking gently over the wet pavement. She wasn't rushing, she wasn't performing, she was just living. At his apartment, Daxon opened his email. One message from Kale again. Subject, "Come home for dinner." No pressure, just food. He debated, then texted back, "What time?" Kale responded instantly, 6. "Don't be dramatic. Just show up." At dinner, Kale made spaghetti and garlic bread. "I don't need a therapist tonight," Daxon said as he sat down. "Good," Kale replied. "I'm not in the mood to fix you." They ate in silence for a while before Kale asked, "Do you still love her?" Daxon didn't look up. "It doesn't matter anymore." "Wrong answer," Kale said. "It does matter. Just not the way you think." Daxon set his fork down. "What's the right answer then?" Kale leaned back. "The right answer is, you loved her in a way that couldn't last, and now you're learning what love should have been." Daxon didn't respond, because Kale was right. Love wasn't control. It wasn't presence without responsibility. It wasn't apologies without change. He hadn't been a villain, but he hadn't been a man Noira could grow with. And love that stunts you isn't love worth staying for. The next morning, Lachlan called. Not a text, an actual call. "Still open to dinner?" he asked. Noira paused. "Yes." "When?" "Friday. I'll make the reservation." It wasn't butterflies she felt. It was calm curiosity, and that was enough. When Friday came, she wore navy blue. Simple, elegant, not trying to impress, not trying to underplay either. They met at a quiet Italian restaurant. No lighting, wood accents, no loud music. Lachlan stood when she arrived, pulled out her chair. They talked about architecture, about travel, about silence. He didn't pry about her past. She didn't edit her words. When the check came, he didn't argue. He paid, then said, "Next one's yours." And that, respect for balance, felt good. They parted with a hug. No promises. Just a possibility. Noira got home and lit a single candle. She stood by the window and realized, perhaps for the first time, she didn't need a love that completed her. She needed one that understood the work she'd already done to become whole. She had mourned Daxon's betrayal. She had faced the truth. And she had built something sacred from the ruins. A life of depth. A life of intention. A life she didn't need to justify or explain. The scent of cedarwood lingered in Noira's hallway as she slipped off her heels and set down her keys. It was almost midnight. The city was still for once. The streets below her building hushed under the soft fog that had rolled in after sunset. She didn't turn on the lights. She didn't need to. Her space no longer felt unfamiliar in the dark. The candle she'd left burning by the window flickered softly, casting long, quiet shadows on the walls. They weren't haunting. They were honest. Noira poured herself a glass of water and sipped slowly. Her phone buzzed. It was a photo from Lachlan, a ceiling mural from a boutique hotel in Milan. Angels flying across pale blue skies. Thought of you. The kind of space you'd design, he wrote beneath it. She smiled. It wasn't flirtation. It was observation, and it made her feel seen in a way that required no performance. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she took her journal from the drawer and sat by the window, pen uncapped. Tonight, she didn't write about him, not Daxon, not Lachlan. She wrote about the peace, the subtle kind that doesn't demand attention, the kind you only notice when you've gone months without chaos, when you've survived yourself. Halfway through the page, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Lachlan. It was Daxon. The message was short. "I won't reach out again after this, but thank you for the way you left. You didn't destroy me, but you made me see me." She stared at it. No anger rose, no sadness either, only stillness. She didn't reply, because some endings don't need echo. The next morning, Noira met with her design team at the new expansion site. Blueprints were spread across the old print shop's front room. The air smelled of sawdust and new beginnings. "We're thinking a skylight here," the project manager said, pointing. "Brings in natural light to the creative therapy space." Noira nodded slowly. "Let's extend it by 3 feet. I want the light to reach the corner where the art station will be. That's where kids tend to gather." The contractor glanced up. "You designing this for kids?" She smiled. "I'm designing it for the kind of child I once was. Quiet, overlooked, needing light even in corners." They moved on to permits, scheduling, vendors. Noira took every note herself, because she wasn't removed from this vision. She was this vision. By noon, the team wrapped, and she headed downtown. Her attorney had finalized documents for the foundation's long-term property ownership rights. A year ago, she would have deferred to someone else to explain clauses and contingencies. Today, she read line by line, circled 2 unclear items, and requested changes before signing. Power didn't feel like control anymore. It felt like clarity. As she left the law office, her phone rang. A new number. She answered cautiously. "Hello? Hi, is this Ms. Noira Fallon?" "Yes. This is Officer Bellman with the Midtown Precinct. You're listed as an emergency contact for Ms. Sydney Fallon. Your aunt." Noira froze. What happened? She was found outside a pharmacy earlier today, disoriented. "We believe she may have experienced a reaction to some medication. She's stable, but we need someone to speak with the attending nurse and possibly assist with follow-up care." Noira closed her eyes briefly. Sydney, her father's estranged sister, the one who floated in and out of recovery centers, the one her family whispered about but rarely called. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. She drove in silence. No playlist, no calls, just the hum of the engine and the rising pulse in her chest. At the clinic, Sydney looked older than Noira remembered. Thinner, eyes sharp but skittish, Her hands trembled slightly when she saw Noira. "You didn't have to come," Sydney muttered. "You listed me." Sydney shrugged. "Didn't think you'd pick up. I almost didn't." A pause. Then Sydney smirked faintly. "You're still honest. That's good." The nurse handed over medication instructions and a release form. "She can leave now," she said gently. "But she'll need someone to stay with tonight." Sydney rolled her eyes. "I don't need a babysitter." Noira exhaled. "You're not getting one." They drove back to Noira's apartment in quiet. Noira made tea. Sydney stood awkwardly near the door. "You live here alone?" she asked, eyes scanning the clean lines and warm tones of the space. "Yes." "No roommates? No guy?" Noira raised a brow. "I had a husband." Sydney winced. "Past tense?" "Very," Sydney nodded slowly. "Smart girl." Later, they sat on the balcony. Sydney smoked a cigarette despite the warning label she claimed to ignore. "Your mom still hate me?" she asked. "She doesn't talk about you." "That's worse." Noira didn't argue. Sydney blew out smoke. "You built all this by yourself." "I rebuilt it." "From what?" "From believing someone else knew me better than I knew myself." Sydney blinked, then whispered, "Damn." They didn't speak much more. When Sydney dozed off on the couch, Noira tucked a blanket over her and dimmed the lights. She wasn't fixing anyone, just offering pause. And in that act, she felt a piece of her own healing tighten into place. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Daxon stood on the balcony of Cale's apartment, a glass of whiskey in hand. His brother joined him, tossing him a coat. "You keep forgetting you're not fireproof," Cale said. Daxon chuckled without humor. "You think I'm learning? I think you're trying." Daxon turned to him. "Is that enough?" Cale was quiet for a moment. Then, "Trying is honest, and honesty's a start." Daxon leaned on the railing. "She won't come back. She might not need to." Daxon looked confused. Cale continued, "Some women don't come back because they outgrew what they left. That doesn't make you evil. It just means she grew. And I didn't. You're growing now. Alone. The way most of us finally do." Daxon didn't argue, didn't deny. Just looked up at the night sky and let the silence say everything he couldn't. 2 days later, Lachlan texted Noira again. "Want to see the conservatory exhibition this weekend?" She hesitated, then typed back, "Yes, but only if we walk there." He replied instantly, "Deal." Not because he needed the walk, but because she'd asked. And that subtle respect was becoming harder to ignore. When the weekend came, she wore flats and a soft grey coat. Nothing glamorous, everything comfortable. Lachlan met her on the corner near her street. They walked slowly, hands never touching, but strides matching without thought. At the conservatory, they admired the art installations and floral arrangements. He asked questions about color theory. She asked about how architecture adapts to emotions. They laughed once, just once, and it was real. Noira bought a postcard from the gift shop, a painting of a single tree in winter. She handed it to him. "Frame it," she said. "Hang it somewhere quiet." He looked down at the card, then up at her. "I will." They didn't kiss, didn't plan the next date. They simply parted with ease. And Noira walked home under the amber glow of street lamps, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Readiness, not for love, but for what love could look like without wounds. She opened her door, slipped off her coat, and sat at the table. One candle, one journal, one self, whole. And that was more than enough, for now. The following Monday, Noira stood in front of a group of 15 women seated in the sunlit main hall of the retreat center. Each woman held a notepad, a steaming mug, and a flicker of something raw. Behind the eyes, pain not yet fully named, peace not yet fully found. Today's session wasn't about lectures, it was about truth. She set down her clipboard and spoke without notes. "Let's not pretend healing is a straight road," she began. "It's often a loop, a conversation you think you've had with yourself, until you find new pain hiding behind old strength. One of the younger women, Jasmine, raised her hand. What if I'm tired of being strong? Like, I don't want to inspire anyone. I just want to not cry at red lights. Several women nodded. Noara smiled gently. Then that's what healing starts with, not with strength, but with rest. Jasmine blinked. Noara continued. You're not here to perform progress. You're here to exist safely, quietly, and truthfully. No one claps here unless it's for themselves. The room relaxed. Shoulders dropped. Tears were not wiped away in shame, but left to fall freely, because that too was sacred. When the session ended, one woman stayed behind. She was older, maybe in her late 50s, short hair, eyes that had seen more than she probably spoke of. I didn't talk today, she said, as Noara handed her a cup of tea. Didn't want to take up space. You were here. That's enough. The woman's hand trembled slightly as she took the cup. I left my husband after 33 years, not because he cheated, but because he stopped looking at me like I was human. Noara didn't respond with pity, only presence. Sometimes, she said softly, we leave to remember our own face. The woman exhaled. I think I forgot mine somewhere in year 12. Noara didn't need to say more, because silence now was earned wisdom. Later that evening, she stood outside the expansion site again, walking the perimeter alone. The old print shop smelled of paint primer and possibility. The first support beams for the new roof had gone up. It was becoming real. Her phone buzzed. Lachlan. Small question, his text read. What's your favorite quiet place in this city? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked up at the half-finished ceiling and smiled, then replied, I'll show you. Meet me Thursday. He sent a thumbs-up emoji, nothing more. And that too was enough. That night, Daxon sat in his old home office. Noara's scent had long faded from the curtains. Her books had been boxed months ago, but her influence remained in the details. A quote still taped to the edge of his monitor. Be still, let the silence teach you. She wrote it during a stormy night. They had fought that evening, not about betrayal. This was before all that. The fight had been about time, Daxon's time, more accurately. His absence, his always somewhere else. That quote was her quiet protest. Back then, he ignored it. Now, he read it nightly. His phone vibrated. A calendar alert. Therapy session, 8 p.m. Zoom link attached. He didn't cancel, didn't postpone. He clicked. The therapist greeted him with a soft smile. Welcome back, Mr. Creed. No titles, he muttered. Just Daxon. All right, Daxon, how do you feel today? He considered lying. Didn't. I feel like I'm finally out of a house I kept burning from the inside. She nodded slowly. And what's left standing? He looked around the room. My guilt, my pride, my need to control every narrative. And what do you want to rebuild? He paused, then said quietly, a life I don't have to defend or explain. Even to myself. The therapist leaned forward. Good. Let's begin there. By Thursday, the sky had cleared. Winter hadn't fully arrived, but there was a gentle chill in the air. Noara dressed in soft layers and texted Lachlan a location pin. An abandoned train station turned overgrown garden on the city's edge. He met her outside the gate, his hands in his coat pockets. This place is beautiful, he said, as they stepped through the rusted archway. I used to come here when I needed to remind myself that things survive, even when forgotten. They walked slowly. Leaves crunched under their shoes. Ivy had claimed the station walls. Old benches now served as quiet altars for people who brought books or left wildflowers behind. You ever bring anyone here before? He asked. She shook her head. No one. He didn't take that lightly. They found a bench and sat. Lachlan turned to her. Can I ask something real? Only if you're ready for an honest answer. Always. Did you ever think staying with him was safer than starting over? She nodded. Of course. Familiar pain is seductive. You know its shape. You learn to predict it. But I reached a point where I feared becoming someone who only knew how to survive. I wanted to learn to thrive. He nodded slowly. And now? Now, she said, I no longer measure safety by absence of pain. I measure it by presence of peace. Lachlan took that in, didn't fill the silence, didn't reach for her hand. He just let her speak. Later, as they walked back to the entrance, he said quietly, You never had to let me in, but thank you for choosing to. She smiled, her voice steady. It's not about letting people in anymore. It's about not letting myself out. That weekend, a small article ran in the city's business journal. Headline, Fallon Wellness expands into Midtown. A new face of community-centered healing. A black and white photo accompanied it. Noara in a blazer, standing in front of the construction site, arms crossed but eyes soft. Daxon saw it during a board meeting break. One of the junior partners had the article open on her tablet. He didn't comment, but when he returned to his office, he looked up her foundation's new site. He clicked through the mission page, the testimonials, the impact reports. Every word carried her fingerprints, every sentence layered with intention. He didn't call, didn't text. He knew better now. But he did whisper one thing into the empty room, as if she might somehow still hear it. I see you. Meanwhile, Sydney packed her things. She'd been staying with Noira for 5 days, hadn't asked for a dime, hadn't stolen anything, hadn't tried to manipulate her way back into the family, just quiet recovery. I'm heading to a program in Atlanta, she said, hoisting her worn duffel bag over her shoulder. Noira handed her a water bottle and a card with $200 tucked inside. You don't owe me a comeback story, she said. Just keep telling yourself the truth. Sydney smirked. You sound like a counselor. Noira smiled. I sound like someone who finally listened to herself. They hugged, no tears. Just a nod between women who knew how hard it was to live honestly in a world addicted to noise. That night, as she closed the door behind Sydney, Noira didn't collapse with exhaustion. She stood tall. She brewed her tea, and she stepped onto the balcony, where the city blinked in soft lights beneath a charcoal sky. She didn't feel lonely. She felt present. And presence, she realized, was the reward for surviving with grace. Inside, her phone buzzed. Lachlan again. Next weekend, there's a jazz night at the museum courtyard. You game? She replied. Only if they serve hot cider. He wrote back. Then we'll bring our own. She laughed quietly, then returned to her journal. The next chapter wasn't certain, but she was no longer afraid to write it, on her own terms, without apology, without permission. The week that followed passed without ceremony, no grand events, no high-stakes tension, but quiet choices, one after the other. Noira spent her mornings reviewing architectural plans for the expansion, and her afternoons responding to emails from women's centers asking for partnerships. Fallon Wellness had grown from an idea into a movement. She wasn't just reacting anymore, she was building. She took meetings calmly. She handled delays with maturity she never used to trust herself with. When a contractor ran late or a city inspector nitpicked a permit clause, she didn't spiral. She breathed. She stayed present. She stayed powerful. Meanwhile, across the city, Daxon had begun the uncomfortable but necessary process of withdrawing from committees and public-facing boards. Not out of shame, out of clarity. He realized something during his last keynote appearance. He was no longer the voice people needed. He wasn't the example of growth, not yet. He sat down with the board of a youth mentorship initiative and said plainly, I'm stepping back for now. I can't help young men build character if I'm still building mine. Some respected him more for it, others didn't say much. He didn't chase either kind of approval, not anymore. That Thursday, he met Cale again for coffee, their usual spot. No agenda, just brotherhood. You're quieter these days, Cale noted, sipping his drink. Daxon smirked. Maybe I ran out of words that mattered. Cale studied him. Or maybe you finally found the ones that do. They talked about their father, about what absence teaches, About the hunger boys carry when praise is rare and pressure is constant. I always thought success would fill that hunger, Daxon said quietly. Turns out, it just hid it. Cale nodded. Until love revealed what it never fixed. Daxon didn't respond, didn't need to. Later that day, Noara met Lachlan again, this time at a jazz night beneath a sky draped in stars. The museum courtyard was warm with lights and soft chatter. Musicians played near a vintage fountain, their instruments weaving something gentle and golden into the air. Noara arrived in a cream turtleneck and a long burnt orange coat, hair pinned up. Confidence understated, but unmistakable. Lachlan stood when she approached, holding 2 small thermoses. "You weren't kidding about the cider," he said. She smiled. "You remembered. Hot, spiced, and smuggled in with style." They laughed, sat, listened. Between songs, Lachlan turned to her. "Tell me one thing you've unlearned." Noara didn't flinch. "That survival means silence." He nodded, waiting. "I used to think strength was swallowing pain and performing happiness. Now I know strength is saying, 'This hurts,' without apology." He took that in slowly. He exhaled. "That love means rescuing someone. I thought if I did everything right, love would stay. But now, I think love stays when people are safe being wrong in front of you." They sat in the kind of silence that didn't need fixing. When the band finished their final set, Lachlan offered to walk her to her car. They passed couples, some holding hands, others mid-argument, but nothing about it felt threatening, just human. At the car, Noara leaned against the door. "Tonight was good." He nodded. No pressure, just presence. She looked up at him. "That's rare." He shrugged. "It shouldn't be." She didn't kiss him. He didn't ask her to. They hugged again, longer this time, with mutual understanding. That same night, Daxon found himself staring at an old notebook Noara once left in his office. He'd forgotten he even kept it. Inside were journal entries from the early days of their marriage. Not about him, about her fears, her hopes, her need for quiet moments to center herself. He read one line over and over. "I don't want to be rescued, I want to be respected." He hadn't respected her silences. He filled them with noise, with dominance, with avoidance, with charm where clarity was needed, with strategy where surrender was called for. He closed the notebook, set it beside his phone, and poured himself a glass of water. No whiskey, not tonight. He looked out the window at the skyline that once symbolized power to him. Now it looked like scaffolding. Strong, impressive, but incomplete. Sunday came with soft rain. Noara stayed in, made banana bread, watched a documentary, called her cousin in Texas, laughed about old family reunions. She didn't think about Daxon until the power blinked off mid-afternoon. For a brief moment, the house fell into total stillness. No humming fridge, no buzzing phone, just the sound of rain on her roof. She lit a candle and sat by the window, and thought, maybe this is what peace looks like, not excitement, not answers, but stillness that doesn't frighten her anymore. Just then, a knock at her door. She wasn't expecting anyone. She checked the peephole. Daxon. She opened the door halfway, a soft wariness in her eyes. "Noara," he said quietly, not stepping inside. "I didn't come for anything. I wanted to say something to you, face to face." She waited. No words of welcome, no bitterness either, just quiet patience. "I thought closure meant explaining myself," he said. "But I realized closure means owning what you already knew." She tilted her head, unsure where he was going. "I lied. I justified. I blamed. I minimized." He looked away briefly. "I didn't cheat out of passion. I cheated out of cowardice. Because I didn't want to admit I was failing at being the man you needed." Silence. Only the rain filled the pause between them. "I don't expect anything," he added. "I just needed you to hear it, not for closure, for clarity." Noara studied him, then said, "Clarity without change is still confusion." He nodded. I'm working on change, not to win you back, but to not lose myself again. She considered that, then opened the door a little wider. Not an invitation inside, but a signal of something different. I hope you become the man you needed when you were busy trying to be the man everyone else wanted. That hit him harder than any slap ever could. He whispered, "Thank you," and left. No dramatics, no desperate plea, just a man learning to walk away with dignity, for once. That night, Noira journaled something she hadn't dared to write before. "I don't want revenge, I want relief, and I have it now." Then, she blew out the candle and let the dark cradle her gently. She wasn't alone. She was anchored, not to a person, but to herself. Monday brought a strange mix of lightness and reflection. Noira woke to the smell of jasmine from the candle she forgot to blow out before dawn. She opened her windows, letting the morning breeze in. There was no weight on her chest, no anxious urge to check her phone, no need to decipher silence or wonder if someone else's choices were her fault. She sat at her breakfast nook with her tea and oatmeal, notebook open, pen ready. Her morning notes weren't business goals or deadlines. They were intentions. Stay present. Don't shrink. Rest is not laziness. Trust the pace you've earned. Later that day, she met with a group of college interns who had applied for mentorship under the Foundation's new leadership program. 6 women, all under 25, each with different majors, backgrounds, and dreams. Noira spoke gently but with authority. "Your story isn't defined by what you escape. It's shaped by how you rebuild without apology." They nodded, some scribbling furiously. One asked, "How did you know when you were ready to lead?" Noira smiled. "I didn't. I just stopped waiting for someone else to give me permission." Meanwhile, Daxon stepped out of a private meeting with Creed Systems Board. They were restructuring, downsizing his role. Politely, of course, respectfully, but it was clear his season there was ending, and strangely, he didn't resist. He signed the paperwork, shook hands, declined the farewell cocktail event. Outside the building, he didn't look up at the company logo. He looked down at the sidewalk. He used to believe power was about being looked up to. Now he understood it was about staying grounded, especially when no one was watching. Back in her home office, Noira received a package, no sender name. Inside was a hardcover book on generational trauma healing and a handwritten note. "Saw this and thought of the work you're doing. Keep planting. You never know who's watching." Signed simply, El Lachlan. She closed the book gently, not flattered, grateful, because thoughtful gestures no longer made her question intent. They weren't bait for romance. They were signals of alignment, and she was learning to receive without bracing for harm. That evening, her phone rang. Her cousin Talia, the one who used to cry on FaceTime every time Noira opened up. "I saw your feature in that wellness magazine." Talia beamed. "Girl, you've gone national." Noira chuckled. "Not quite. But thank you." Then Talia said something that caught her off guard. "I left Marcus." Silence. Noira sat up straighter. "What happened?" "Nothing dramatic," Talia said. "I just got tired of being tolerated instead of treasured." Noira didn't interrupt. "And watching you walk away with grace made me believe I could too." Tears welled in Noira's eyes. Not because of Talia's pain, but because healing had ripples, even quiet ones. Later that night, Daxon visited his mother. She was older now, smaller somehow. The house smelled of peppermint and fresh laundry. He hadn't visited in months. "Do you want tea?" she asked, already pouring 2 cups. He nodded, sitting at the kitchen table where he once did homework, broke curfews, and first confessed his dreams. "I stepped down from Creed," he said. She raised an eyebrow, but didn't react. "I'm not proud of how I handled my marriage," he added. Still, she said nothing. Then, finally, "You've always confused success with security, Dax. But security built on ego collapses in the rain." He looked up, "And you've had a storm year. He nodded, slowly. I'm still learning. Good, she replied. Because love, real love, is not an instinct. It's a discipline. He stayed there longer than planned. When he left, he hugged her tighter than usual. Across town, Lachlan was on a late Zoom call with his architect team. They were finalizing designs for a community center inspired by old train station blueprints. As the team logged off, one colleague stayed behind. Can I ask something personal? The colleague said, Is this build connected to someone? Lachlan hesitated, then nodded. It's for the version of me that used to run from connection, and somewhere inside, he knew. That center wasn't about impressing Noara. It was about preparing himself to meet love with stillness instead of fear. Friday came again. Another dinner, another step. This time, Noara met Lachlan at a small rooftop bistro overlooking the city lights. Wind chimes hung at the edge of the terrace, soft jazz in the background. The menu was handwritten on rustic wood boards. They didn't talk about love. They talked about values, what made them pause, what made them run, what they admired in strangers. At one point, Lachlan asked, What's one non-negotiable you've earned? Noara didn't flinch. Emotional honesty. I don't want promises. I want presence. He nodded. Same. At the end of the night, as he walked her to her car again, he paused. May I kiss you? She thought. Not because of nerves, but because asking mattered. She smiled. Not yet. But thank you for asking. He nodded, smiled, and said, Let me know when, and walked away, not wounded, respected. That night, Noara journaled again. Love is not earned by suffering, it's welcomed by wholeness. Across the page, she underlined one word, wholeness. Because this time, she wasn't finding herself in someone. She was sharing the self she'd already found. And that changed everything. The week leading into autumn had a stillness Noara couldn't ignore. Her days were full, yet peaceful. Meetings flowed, boundaries held. And every morning, she returned to the same ritual. Tea, window open. Silence before responsibility. Her calendar buzzed with new partnerships, keynote invites, and program launches. But none of it distracted her from the quiet shift within. She wasn't rushing toward anything. Not anymore. She was walking with herself. Fully. And when Lachlan texted Wednesday morning, How's your Thursday night? She responded easily, available. Want to choose the spot? That night, he took her to a cultural center downtown. Not for dinner, but for a poetry reading. Local artists, free seating, warm cider in recycled cups. They sat shoulder to shoulder as a woman in her 60s read a piece called The Men I Outgrew. Noara didn't flinch. She smiled, because she wasn't bitter anymore. Later, they walked the long way to the parking garage, and he asked, When did you stop waiting for an apology to move forward? She didn't need to think. The moment I realized peace doesn't require permission. Lachlan nodded. That's heavy. No, she replied. It's light. It just took time. He opened her car door. Still no kiss? She laughed softly. Ask me again on Sunday. Fair enough. At home, she received an email from a trauma recovery institute asking her to speak at a global summit in spring. Her name was gaining weight in circles she once thought were closed off. But fame wasn't what moved her. Impact was. Meanwhile, Daxon had moved into a smaller apartment on the east side. No skyline view. No concierge. Just quiet. He had sold his luxury watch collection, given away half his suits, deleted social apps he used for posturing. In their place were books on accountability, handwritten journal entries and small dinners with friends who asked hard questions and didn't need curated answers. That Friday, he stood before a high school assembly, not as a CEO, as a guest speaker. He spoke about choices, about control masked as love, about the cost of unhealed ambition. I didn't lose my marriage because I cheated, he said bluntly. I lost it because I didn't grow. There was no applause, just silence, and that meant they were listening. Afterward, a teacher approached him. "You have a second act in you," she said. He nodded. "I think so too." Later that night, Cale dropped by unannounced with takeout. "No lecture?" Daxon asked. Cale shook his head. "No sermon, just noodles." They ate in quiet until Daxon asked, "Do you think she's happier now?" Cale didn't answer immediately. "Then I think she's safer, and safety is the soil joy grows in." Daxon sighed, not from regret, from acceptance. That Sunday, Noira dressed in a light grey wrap dress and low heels, her curls pinned up. A necklace her mother gifted her for her 30th birthday sat at her collarbone. Lachlan was waiting outside her building. They didn't rush dinner. They didn't fill silence with noise. After dessert, he looked at her, serious but gentle. "You said Sunday." She met his gaze. This time, she leaned forward and kissed him. Slow, steady, present, not for promise, but because her body said yes. He didn't try to deepen it. He held her cheek and whispered, "Thank you." When he walked her back upstairs, she didn't invite him in. Not because she didn't want to, because she didn't need to prove anything. He kissed her hand and said, "I'll see you soon." That night, she slept without dreams, because she didn't need escape. The next morning, she stood at her office window, watching the trees begin to turn amber and crimson. The shift was here. Seasons always told the truth. Her assistant buzzed in. "There's someone here asking for you. No appointment." Noira blinked. "Who?" "Daxon." "Creed." Silence. Then, softly, "Let him in." She didn't stand when he entered. She stayed seated, spine straight, expression neutral. He looked smaller somehow, not in stature, in energy. No performance, no shadow of arrogance. He waited for her to speak. She didn't, so he began. "I'm not here to make things right. I'm here to own what I broke." Still, she said nothing. He continued, "I lied by omission. I built an empire where you couldn't breathe. And when you outgrew me, I called it betrayal instead of evolution." Noira nodded slowly. "Why now?" "Because I finally realized the apology doesn't change the past, but silence does damage twice." She crossed her legs. "And what do you want from me?" He smiled, soft, tired. "Nothing. You don't owe me closure. I owe you honesty." He pulled a letter from his coat pocket. "If you ever feel like reading it, it's yours." Then he turned to leave. No dramatics, no lingering, just a quiet exit. She didn't call after him. She didn't cry. She simply stared at the envelope on her desk. An hour later, she opened it. It was handwritten. No manipulation, no flattery. Just a man confronting his patterns. And at the bottom, "Thank you for loving me when I didn't yet know how to return it." She folded the letter, placed it in her drawer, and whispered, "Goodbye." This time, for the last time. Noira stepped out into the quiet street, the city hushed under a blanket of winter calm. Lights flickered gently in storefronts. The rhythm of life was steady, no longer jarring or filled with noise she used to absorb to feel alive. She didn't need distraction anymore. Peace had replaced the chaos she once mistook for purpose. She locked the door behind her and walked toward the car waiting at the curb. Her driver, a quiet man with graying hair and kind eyes, greeted her with a soft nod. "Ready, Mom?" "I am," she replied. They drove in silence. The destination wasn't extravagant. Not a gala, not a business event. Just a public discussion panel about sustainable redevelopment. She wasn't the keynote speaker. She was a listener today, and that choice mattered. Choosing not to always lead, choosing to be still, choosing to learn. She arrived early and found a seat near the back. Her presence didn't cause a stir. She wasn't there to be noticed. She was there because she wanted to understand how others were building things that lasted. Daxon didn't know she would be there. He had agreed to speak weeks ago, invited by the same network of professionals who had once celebrated his rise in the corporate world. This time, they were interested in his story of failure and growth. He stood on stage, not in a tailored three-piece suit, but in a simple black sweater and slacks. No tie, no pretense. "My name is Daxon," he began, his voice steady. "And I used to think leadership meant being first, being loudest, being most visible. I was wrong." Noara folded her arms across her lap. Not in defense, in stillness. Daxon went on, "When I lost my marriage, I thought I lost love. But what I really lost was reflection. I had no mirror, no one challenging me to see past my own ego. I made decisions to preserve power, not partnership. I said sorry a lot. I just didn't change much." There was a pause in the room. Respectful silence. "I didn't come here to make a public confession," he said. "I came here because accountability doesn't end when people stop watching. It begins when you're finally alone with your truth." Noara inhaled slowly. This wasn't a performance, it was a reckoning. Daxon stepped down after the panel. Several attendees approached him, some offering thanks, others curious about his new consulting firm on ethical leadership. He answered thoughtfully, but never lingered long. He wasn't feeding on attention. He was learning how to exist without it. Outside, he walked slowly toward the parking garage, then stopped. Across the street, standing by a small art gallery's lit entrance, was Noara. He hadn't expected her, but he didn't freeze either. She crossed the street. No rush, no hidden motive. "Good panel," she said softly. "Didn't think you'd be here." "I didn't either. But I came." They stood quietly for a moment. "I wasn't trying to win you back up there," he said. "I know. I meant every word, though." She nodded. "I know that too. There was no swelling music, no dramatic embrace, no plea to rewrite the past, only acknowledgement." "I'm not the same man you left," Daxon said. "And I'm not the same woman who stayed," Noara replied. He looked down at her hands. No rings, no expectation. "I'm glad you came," he said finally. "I'm glad you stood still long enough to grow." She started to walk away, then paused. "Daxon, yeah? I'm not angry anymore." His eyes softened. "You have every right to be." "I did, and I honored that. But I laid it down, not for you, for me." She left him with that, not as punishment, as peace. Because sometimes healing means walking away without looking back to see if they're following. A few days later, Lachlan texted, "Want to try brunch this time? I know a quiet spot." She replied, "Sounds good. Pick the day." They met on a Sunday. Outdoor seating, simple menu, mismatched mugs. He brought her a small wrapped box. Inside, a fountain pen. "I saw it and thought of you," he said. "Not because it's expensive, because it's deliberate." She ran her fingers over it. It wasn't a grand gesture. It was personal, thoughtful, respectful. Brunch was light, playful, curious. He didn't ask about Daxon. She didn't bring it up, because not every new chapter needs to explain the last one. That night, Noara journaled for the first time in weeks. Her handwriting had changed, more confident, less rushed. She wrote about silence, about standing in it, not running from it, about the difference between being alone and being at peace, about loving yourself enough not to settle for apology without transformation. She ended with a line, "I'm no longer mourning what wasn't. I'm building what is." Daxon, in his apartment, watered the single plant on his windowsill. He didn't text her, didn't send her a final message. He knew better now. Her closure wasn't his to trigger, but he smiled. Because some love stories don't end in reunion, they end in redemption. He had hurt her. She had healed. And somehow, that was enough. Back at her retreat center, Noara walked through the new wing under construction. She watched as artists painted murals designed by local youth, watched as soundproof rooms were fitted for therapy sessions, watched as one space that had once been broken slowly became a safe place for others. A volunteer approached. "The city offered us another grant. You want to look at the proposal?" Noara took it, studied it, then looked out the window at the street she once cried on. Now, she smiled. Because legacies aren't always built through rings or vows. Some are built by choosing yourself when no one else does. Some are built by honoring pain without becoming it. Some are built by refusing to shrink, even when love demands you disappear. She walked into her office and placed the fountain pen on her desk. It wasn't a symbol of new love. It was a reminder. She wrote her name slowly on the corner of a new journal page. Then simply wrote, "I am here, not waiting, not running, just present, alive. Enough. Thank you for staying with us through this journey on Mr. Charles' Stories. If Noira's story resonated with you, even in the quiet moments, the choices she made, or the pain she outgrew, then stay a little longer. Let's reflect together. Not all heartbreak ends with revenge. Not every betrayal requires rage. Sometimes, the most powerful closure is not chasing it at all, just choosing peace, choosing growth. This wasn't the story of a woman ruined by a man. It was the story of a woman refusing to ruin herself in the aftermath of someone else's choices. Noira didn't seek attention. She didn't wait for Daxon to grovel long enough. She gave herself the love he didn't know how to offer, and she walked away with her soul intact. And Daxon, he didn't become a new man for her. He became one because losing her exposed the cracks in who he was pretending to be. And he chose to face them. That's what makes this story important. Because too many people think change means getting the other person back. Sometimes, it means not making the same mistake twice. Sometimes, it means loving someone enough to let them go, and loving yourself enough not to ask them to return. So now we ask you, have you ever outgrown someone you still cared for? Have you ever realized peace isn't something someone gives you, but something you decide to keep? Do you know someone who stayed longer than they should have, hoping change would come instead of choosing their own healing? Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your story, or your silence, or your strength. And if you felt something, anything through Noira's calm, Daxon's growth, or Lachlan's quiet respect, like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that soft endings are still powerful, and subscribe to Mr. Charles' Stories for more. Here, we believe in stories that don't scream to be heard. We believe in healing that doesn't need an audience. And we believe that sometimes, walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because in the end, you don't always need a new beginning. Sometimes, you just need the strength to close the right chapter and choose yourself without apology.